Okay, guys, so this is a guy that I had found back way back in the day, um, before I deleted all my videos and stuff like that in regards to video games and stuff. I had covered this guy once before. And so this is the guy that invented unlimited power, that basically got the idea from Nikolai Tesla, whether he wants to admit it or not, because that was the person that created this invention from the get go, and all of those files from those inventions were stolen and either incinerated or hidden. And our government today has been hiding this stuff for years, and now it's coming out, and it's coming out through Zimbabwe. So thank God Almighty up above that it's coming out in a place that absolutely needs something like this. But now it's time for it to spread all over the world. And it has nothing to do with the fact that how this guy from this channel puts it out there, like it's all about black culture and black history. Because all the achievements that mankind has ever done, they've done together in equality and through the love of one another, working together. Let's check it out.
They have tested it. Some of them, they've bought my products before, like Emmanuel. Emmanuel, I think he bought 2 machines for himself. Right now, he bought a car. Right now, he bought a motorbike.
What if the next invention that changes the world doesn't come from Silicon Valley, Tokyo, or Berlin, but from Harare, Zimbabwe? What if Africa, long underestimated, just produced a car that runs forever, no fuel, no charging, no emissions, and can even power an entire home? Well, this is actually happening. But how does a machine like this even work? And why is the world suddenly trembling at the thought of it? Let's find that out. When the cover was pulled away, it revealed what looked like a sleek sedan. There was no branding from a major automaker, no futuristic wings or panels, just a simple car. But the extraordinary part wasn't in how it looked, it was in what it could do. The inventor, Maxwell Chikumbutso, stepped forward, calm but deliberate, and announced that this vehicle would run indefinitely without fuel, without charging, and without producing emissions. A murmur of disbelief spread across the crowd. Then the demonstration began. Chikumbutso started the car. It hummed to life, but unlike a petrol engine, there was no roar, no smell of exhaust. He drove it forward, looped around the testing grounds, and kept driving. Minutes turned into hours. While journalists scribbled notes and cameramen filmed furiously, the car showed no sign of slowing, no need for refueling, and no tether to any charging station. Engineers in the audience were baffled. There were no visible solar panels, no bulky battery packs, nothing that aligned with conventional automotive design. But what shook the crowd most was not just the car itself. It was the boldness of what it represented. In a world still reeling from energy crises, climate breakdown, and spiraling fuel prices, here was an African inventor telling the world that a single vehicle could escape all of those problems at once. This wasn't a promise of better efficiency or cleaner alternatives. It was a claim of total independence, a machine that drew power from sources available everywhere on Earth, with no cost to the driver. The unveiling didn't stop with the car. Chikumbutso introduced a line of devices that all ran on the same breakthrough principle. A luxury power bike that required neither fuel nor charging, a television set with no battery, no plug, and no electricity bills, and a green power generator capable of supplying homes or even ships at sea with unlimited energy. Each device seemed to mock the limitations that the rest of the world had accepted as normal. For the local audience, the moment carried a deeper weight. Zimbabwe has endured decades of power cuts, blackouts, and dependence on imported fuel. To see a fellow countryman present technology that could flip this reality upside down was more than exciting. It was personal. It was a glimpse of freedom from a daily struggle. The applause wasn't just for the inventor. It was for the possibility of an Africa that no longer had to beg for oil or pay billions for energy infrastructure. By the time international media outlets picked up the story, The ripple had turned into a wave. Headlines range from Zimbabwe unveils world's first free energy vehicle to African inventor threatens global energy order. Reactions varied, some skeptical, others celebratory, but no one could ignore it. If the claims proved true, the consequences would reach every corner of the planet. That day in Harare did more than showcase a car. It planted a flag in the ground, a message to the rest of the world. Africa is not only part of the technological conversation, it can set the terms. Still, beneath the excitement, the question everyone kept asking was the same. What is this micronic energy technology? And how can it really keep a machine running forever? And that is exactly what we need to explore next. When Maxwell Chikumbutso finally revealed the inner workings of his invention, the explanation sounded almost unbelievable. His creation relied on something humanity has lived with for over a century, but has never truly mastered as a large-scale power source.
Amazon wants to ban this charger, but there's nothing they can do about it. Nobody believed me at first, but now everybody...
Power source. Radio frequencies. Invisible, abundant, and constant. They travel around us every second of every day. They bounce from natural sources, from the sun, from cosmic radiation, and even from human-made transmissions like radio towers. Most people think of them as carriers of information. Chikumbutso found a way to make them carriers of power. The heart of his design is what he calls micronic energy technology, a system that converts radio waves into electricity that is stable, continuous, and scalable. While earlier scientists have experimented with extracting tiny amounts of energy from the air, they only achieved outputs strong enough to power sensors or microchips. Chikumbutso's breakthrough was to push that principle into a new dimension, creating a system capable of generating enough current to power not just household appliances, but heavy vehicles. The system works through a compact network of receivers and converters embedded in the device. These receivers capture frequencies across multiple bands of the electromagnetic spectrum, filter out noise, and channel usable energy into a transformation unit. This unit then converts the frequencies into direct, usable electricity, much like how a solar panel transforms sunlight into power. The difference is striking. While solar depends on daylight and clear skies, micronic energy never fades. Whether under cloud, underground, or in the middle of the ocean, the flow of radio frequencies never stops. Critics argue that such energy should be too dispersed to power machines of any scale. Yet the demonstration vehicle and other devices proved otherwise. Chikumbutso's engineering trick appears to lie in amplification and storage balance. Instead of relying on bulky batteries, his systems amplify ambient energy into usable surges, storing just enough to keep a steady flow. This makes his machines lighter and infinitely more efficient than electric cars, weighed down by lithium packs. The implications are staggering. Imagine a household generator that never runs out, a bike that travels forever, a car that never pulls into a station, or even a ship that sails indefinitely. The question of range anxiety that haunts today's electric vehicles vanishes entirely. Cities could redesign themselves without gas stations or charging networks. Remote villages could access stable power without the expense of connecting to a national grid. Entire nations could skip over the endless debates about fossil fuels versus renewables because energy would no longer be scarce. Even more profound is what this means for the environment. For decades, the push toward renewable energy has battled against entrenched industries. Solar and wind, while powerful, require massive infrastructure. Nuclear, while clean in operation, demands resources and carries risks. Chikumbutso's approach suggests a model where clean power is simply harvested from the air. No mining, no pipelines, no emissions, no waste. The reduction in carbon output alone could alter the trajectory of climate change. Yet, the most revolutionary aspect is not simply scientific. It is psychological and political. For the first time, Africa is not just proposing an alternative energy. It is leading with one. This is not a borrowed innovation, not an adaptation of Western or Asian prototypes. It is an African-born...
No, it's not an African-born anything, and you don't know what you're talking about, bro. You need to do your own research, and you need to go back to Nikola Tesla, son, because that was a white man, and he invented this already, and his Documentations and proof of this were taken and hidden or destroyed, one or the other. But go ahead, let's continue.
Technology with the potential to disrupt the balance of global industries. If validated and scaled, it changes not only how we move, but also who controls the future of energy. And that leads us to the next pressing question. Who is the man daring enough to challenge the entire global system with nothing but persistence, vision, and the audacity to think differently? That is where the story takes us next. Let's pause for a second to say, big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel.
Listen, I 100% support what he's saying in this category, but the part where he's not, he's making diversity a thing by saying what he's saying, and there is no call for that. We're all equal. We can all be called to do amazing things in this world. We can all be called by the Lord Almighty up above to invent awesome stuff that's already been invented once before, by the way, in the past, through history. It's just been covered up by the governments because this whole world is built on fossil fuels and everything that just came out of this guy's mouth. Plain and simple. We all bleed the same blood. Skin color don't matter, brother. Get with the times. Let's go.
You're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. To understand the machine, you have to understand the man. Maxwell Chikumbutso did not emerge from a polished laboratory or a well-funded innovation hub. He grew up in Zimbabwe, in a society where blackouts were common, fuel was expensive, and the idea of energy independence felt like a distant dream. His path to invention was not paved with privilege. It was carved through persistence, improvisation, and a stubborn refusal to accept limitations. Unlike celebrated inventors in the West, Chikumbutso's journey was marked by rejection and obscurity. He was self-taught.
Okay, and that's BS as well, because every inventor on the planet that's come up with stuff like this has either been offed, gotten rid of, or they've been paid to shut up and not continue their work. We've got people that have created cars that run on water, generators that run on water, all kinds of different things that are just absolutely amazing. And they've been invented by white people, black people, Chinese people. It don't matter, bro. It don't matter, man. Like I said, get with the times, bro. Get with the times. Stop pushing a false narrative.
Relying not on elite university degrees, but on endless tinkering, trial, and error. For years, he worked in silence, experimenting with prototypes that many considered outlandish. Stories circulated of early attempts that fizzled out or were laughed off by skeptics. But while others saw failure, he saw stepping stones. Each setback became proof that something greater lay ahead if he refused to stop. What makes his story remarkable is not only his resilience, but also his perspective. Chikumbutso was not chasing profit alone. He was chasing liberation. In Zimbabwe, power shortages are not a nuisance. They are daily obstacles. Businesses stall.
Nah, last I checked, from the video that I saw that was a live interview with this guy, he said that God blessed him with this knowledge and that it took years for him to create this through many visions that God was giving him to put it together. So, get your facts straight, bro. Let's go.
Students study by candlelight, and hospitals struggle to run machines. He understood, perhaps more intimately than inventors in wealthy nations, what it meant for millions to live without reliable energy. For him, solving the puzzle of infinite power was never an abstract experiment. It was a necessity rooted in the survival and dignity of his people.
Wait, you renovated your home without refinancing or taking out a home equity loan? Yep, and no monthly payments.
His people. Observers often note his humility. Despite unveiling a technology that could upend global industries, Chikumbutso does not present himself as a larger-than-life genius. He speaks instead with the confidence of someone who has spent decades ignored and now finally has the chance to be heard. His quiet determination reflects a broader African spirit, the will to innovate not for applause, but for independence. There is also an undeniable symbolism in his rise. For centuries, Africa's brightest minds were overshadowed, their innovations either stolen, suppressed, or ignored. Chikumbutso's breakthrough represents a reversal of that history.
Well, I guess we all know where we need to be living. Let's all get to Zimbabwe, everybody. That's where we need to be going, because all the rest of these governments think that they can run this world with garbage intent and things that consistently put money in their pocket and destroy the earth. So all of us that are following Christ, I recommend we all take our little happy butts to Zimbabwe and show all of our governments that they ain't nothing without us. Here we go.
An African inventor standing on African soil, showing the world something it could not produce elsewhere. His work redefines what it means to be a pioneer. He is not following in the footsteps of Western scientists. He is cutting an entirely new path. Yet his story also underscores the loneliness of innovation. Without deep-pocketed investors, without global PR machines, he carried the burden of development largely on his own. In many ways, the February unveiling was less a celebration than a vindication. It was proof that despite every
And no, he didn't do it on his own. Once again, there was a video in the past that I got to see the original video when he actually did get an interview, and he gave all the glory to God. Plain and simple.
obstacle, financial, political, and scientific, he had reached the finish line. But the unveiling also raises deeper questions. If one man in Harare can crack infinite energy, what does it say about the rest of the world? Why have nations with billions in R&D budgets failed to achieve the same? Some whisper of systemic neglect, that African inventors rarely receive platforms or resources, forcing their breakthroughs to bloom against impossible odds. Others argue that disruptive technologies are often suppressed when they threaten entrenched industries. Whatever the truth, Chikumbutso's success is undeniable. His invention positions him not just as an inventor, but as a disruptor of narratives. He is a reminder that Africa is not merely the continent of raw materials, it is the continent of raw genius. His work challenges every stereotype, dismantles every excuse, and demands that the world rethink where innovation can come from. Still, even as his personal story inspires, it also provokes a sharper question. How will the global system react to him? For if his technology is as transformative as it appears, then oil cartels, car makers, and governments have everything to lose. And history has shown that when power is threatened, it rarely goes quietly. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history.
Well, that right there, I definitely agree with him on. And I definitely appreciate him bringing attention to Black culture and stuff like that. But, brother, equality is a thing. And creating diversity is not godly. Just saying. Let's keep going.
Civilization and identity. Let's continue now. When word of Maxwell Chikumbutso's invention began to filter into global markets, the reaction was instant and volatile. Oil futures dipped within days as speculation mounted. What happens if vehicles no longer need petrol? Energy analysts scrambled to reassure investors, insisting that such a leap could not possibly scale. But behind closed doors, boardrooms from Houston to Riyadh were rattled. For decades, oil has been more than fuel. It has been the backbone of global power. Wars have been fought over it, alliances built on it, and entire economies tethered to its trade. Chikumbutso's car threatened to reduce it all to redundancy. The tremors did not stop with oil. Automakers who had spent billions retooling factories for electric vehicles faced an equally existential threat. Companies in Detroit, Tokyo, and Stuttgart had...
They're not facing any threats at all. All they got to do is use the money that they've made to rebuild their entire society to provide this to the world. I am so sorry that your form of income is coming to an end, homeboys. But it's time for that change to happen because the earth is more important than your pockets. So let's keep going.
staked their futures on lithium batteries, building supply chains stretching from Chilean salt flats to Chinese processing plants. If Micronic Energy could truly power a vehicle without charging, then their great EV revolution risked being obsolete before it even peaked. A Tesla or Toyota could only go as far as its battery. A Chikumbutso car, in theory, could drive endlessly. That comparison alone unsettled an industry that prided itself on being the cutting edge. Governments, too, began to panic.
That's not a theory, that's a fact. His car can drive forever. His power can power forever. As a matter of fact, just like he said, there's an endless supply of this power being pushed all over the world because of cell phone towers. Boom! Mind blown. So, those of you that have a brain that are capable of inventing something like this, let's make copies of it and get it out to the world. Right under the government's noses. That's what we should be doing. Not presenting it to the government and saying, hey, check this out. Look what I made. Oh, no. We got to get rid of you. That's what ends up happening. But this guy just so happens to be in the right place, where the government of Zimbabwe doesn't have what the Western civilization does in regards to fossil fuels and craziness like this. So this is the first innovation for them that had to come from them because they have nothing. But anyway, let's keep going.
Not only because of the economic implications, but because of the geopolitical ones. Energy has always been the lever of control. Nations with oil fields dictated terms to those without.
I'm sorry, let me correct that. What they do have is family and love in family. That's what Zimbabwe has. They have a love for one another that the rest of the world has forgotten, that Jesus taught, that everybody is spitting on to this day. Well, it's time to wake up and open your eyes and look what can be created when everybody loves each other.
Superpowers imposed sanctions to choke access to fuel. The global order rested on the assumption that energy was scarce and controlled. But what if it no longer was? What if every country, every village, every individual could pull power out of thin air? Suddenly, the great game of pipelines and shipping routes, of OPEC quotas and strategic reserves, looked irrelevant. This fear translated into two simultaneous reactions. Publicly, Western officials and energy experts dismissed Chikumbutso's breakthrough as exaggerated or untested. Privately, intelligence agencies and energy ministries scrambled to acquire more details. If the technology was real, they needed to know how it worked and whether it could be replicated, bought, or contained. For Africa to hold the keys to infinite energy was an idea that disrupted not just science, but politics. The environmental movement responded with cautious celebration. Activists hailed the potential of a world where carbon emissions could plummet overnight. Yet even here, unease crept in. Could such technology be monopolized, weaponized, or suppressed before it reached the masses? History has shown that disruptive inventions often disappear under pressure from industries determined to protect their profits. Would Chikumbutso's creation be any different? The sharpest panic, however, came from financial markets. Trillions of dollars in oil reserves, gas pipelines, and battery factories could become stranded assets if Micronic Energy scaled. Hedge funds began whispering about the African disruption. Analysts speculated that nations rich in oil, such as Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the United States, could see their geopolitical clout evaporate.
Most men don't know this, but ED medication, it has two essential ingredients, and if you're taking either
evaporate. Others worried about the collapse of entire regions dependent on fuel exports. In this sense, the invention was not just a scientific marvel, but a potential wrecking ball for the global economy. Yet amid the fear, one truth stood out. The rest of the world was reacting to Africa, not the other way around. The continent that had long been sidelined in global innovation was now dictating the conversation. Chikumbutso's invention forced leaders to reckon with a future in which Africa was not merely a participant, but a leader. And that, perhaps, was more frightening to some than the end of oil itself. Still, one question lingers above all others. If the world is shaken, what does this mean for Africa itself? Can the continent seize this moment and redefine its role on the global stage? Or will outside powers try to suppress and control the breakthrough? That is the question we turn to next. For centuries, Africa was trapped in cycles of extraction. Its gold, diamonds, oil, and cobalt siphoned away to fuel foreign economies. But with micronic energy technology, the rules are reversed. The resource is no longer buried underground, waiting for someone else to dig it up. It is in the air, accessible to all, and pioneered on African soil. This matters because energy has always been Africa's Achilles heel. More than 600 million Africans live without reliable electricity. In rural villages, nights are still lit by kerosene lamps. In cities, blackouts remain routine. Industrial growth is constantly undermined by the limits of the grid. Now imagine if homes could run on off-grid generators that pull power straight from radio frequencies. Imagine schools, hospitals, and businesses never worrying about outages again. The leap would not just be technological, it would be civilizational. Africa could close centuries of energy deficit in a single decade. But leadership is not only about solving local problems, it's about shaping global narratives. For too long, Africa has been cast as the recipient of aid, technology, and charity. Chikumbutso's invention flips that script. Suddenly, the West is watching Africa with anxious eyes, not because of what it needs, but because of what it has. For the first time, Africa is not asking to join the table, it is setting the menu. This shift in perception is itself revolutionary. The timing couldn't be more significant. Across the continent, 2025 has already been marked by bold innovations. Kenyan labs producing AI-powered prosthetics that give amputees lifelike control. Congolese researchers
Like I said, guys, here in the next couple years, I wonder what state's going to be the most advanced state on the entire face of the earth, thanks to this one particular innovation. Yeah, if I had the ability to get my booty over to Zimbabwe, I'd probably be living there and becoming a citizen. Because I'd rather be free than be under a taxed slave narrative.
generating electricity from plants. South African scientists running clinical trials that redefine healthcare. Taken together, these breakthroughs tell a larger story. Africa is not waiting for permission. It is building, experimenting, and leading. Chikumbutso's car may be the most dramatic symbol, but it is part of a much bigger current pulling the continent forward. Of course, leadership also comes with threats. History warns us that when Africa rises, external powers move quickly to contain it. Colonialism was never just about land, it was about control of resources. Today, the danger is subtler, but no less real. Will energy giants attempt to buy and bury the technology? Will governments facing economic collapse push back with political pressure, sanctions, or even sabotage? These are not paranoid questions. They are the lessons of history. The real challenge for Africa is not simply having the technology, but protecting it, scaling it, and ensuring it benefits Africans first. This moment, therefore, calls for continental unity. If one inventor in Harare can produce such a disruption, imagine what coordinated African innovation could achieve. Regional blocs like the African Union and ECOWAS must see inventions like this not as isolated wonders, but as strategic assets. Just as Europe guards its industries and the US shields its tech giants, Africa must defend its own breakthroughs from predatory interests. A shared vision could transform micronic energy into the backbone of a new African industrial age. And here lies the ultimate irony. For centuries, outsiders told Africa it was behind, that it needed to catch up. Now, with one invention, Africa may have surged ahead, leaving others scrambling to keep pace. The question is no longer whether Africa can lead. It is whether Africa will seize the opportunity before others try to take it away. Because if the continent stands firm, if it nurtures its inventors and scales its technologies, then the story of Maxwell Chikumbutso's car will not just be about one man or one machine, It will be remembered as the moment Africa claimed its future, not as a follower, but as the driver of the world's next great transformation. Do you think Africa can protect this invention from being suppressed by global powers? Let us know in the comment section. If energy becomes free and infinite, who loses the most? Oil giants, automakers, or governments? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel.
All right, well, that goes to show you right there, guys. That's about the tippy top of what I wanted to show you for this part. And I like what, like I said, I like what this guy is covering, but I don't like that the guy that covered this video is pushing for diversity, because he's only covering black culture history and creating a diverse outlook that, from what I can see and what I have heard in this video, supporting it vividly. Diversity is wrong, and it is not of God. Back in the day, when the Tower of Babel was created, the reason why diversity was created was to make it to where everybody couldn't understand each other anymore, so they'd stop trying to build a tower to heaven, because that wasn't going to happen. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you agree with the content. Please share it with everybody else that you can possibly share it with, because this guy's invention that originally came from Nikola Tesla's idea of lost files needs to be pushed out there as hardcore as possible, so that this can be a worldwide change. Nobody has to be suffering at all anymore. God has given us the tools, the knowledge, and the power to make sure that everybody has everything they need. All we have to do is stand up to those that want to cover it up and pretend like stuff like this doesn't exist. And with that being said, God bless everybody, and we will catch you in the next one.